Hello and welcome to the first ever NBA DFS Slate Breakdown. We're going to be going over tonight's slate. It's the 2-game slate opening night, Tuesday, October 24th. It should be a fun one. One thing I will say right from the get-go is most of the time there is a 2-game slate. I am not going to be doing a show. I'm going to only do shows for 4 games and above, unless there's some big reason like opening night or giant contests or whatnot. So here we go for tonight's opening night slate. Before we get into it, come join us at LionStar. Only $39.99 per month gets you access to everything we do, all the props, all the DFS for all sports we cover. One low price. It is a great spot to come join us. We got NBA starting. NFL is well on its way. Great time in sports. So let's go. All right. So for this slate, or for this show, actually, I am going to generally lean on the usage matrix a lot and kind of talk through some injury situations, because we know with NBA, that is the most important situation. Now, tonight is a little bit different. It's opening night. Not as much to talk about, and we don't have any data from this year, so we only could go off data from last year. And these teams are all pretty different, except for the Lakers Nuggets. They are similar, just slight changes. Suns, Warriors, quite a bit different. So first thing I want to go over, injury situation. Jared Vanderbilt's out for the Lakers. Nuggets are fine. Kankar is out, which should let Braun get a little bit more work. And then also Bruce Brown is no longer with the Nuggets, which is a interesting spot to talk about maybe some changes there. And then on the Phoenix Suns side, Bradley Beal is doubtful. Damian Lee is out. And I think there could be some interesting spots to target on the Suns because of that. And then lastly, the Warriors, Draymond Green is out. Jordan Poole is gone. Chris Paul is there. I think there's some interesting spots we can target here and talk about each team. So what I want to do is I want to start off just talking a little bit about each team. So the Denver Nuggets, as I said, Bruce Brown is out. We don't know exactly what the rotations are going to be for any of these teams. And with that, we have our guesses. We have what we think might happen in the industry, the field. Everybody has, those same guesses, but we do not know. And if you think something's off a little bit, make the changes to the projections, because there's more volatility and more room for projections to be wrong tonight than any other night. We simply don't know how the minutes are going to break down exactly. Like, for instance, I think Christian Braun may play a little bit more tonight. So through the finals, 15 to 20 minutes or so he was playing. Now, we have him projected for 20. I think there's a very real chance he's at 24 or 26 minutes. And if that's the case, this projection is just going to be off. He averages like 0.7 fantasy points a minute or 0.73, something like that on DraftKings. And if he's getting that kind of minutes, this projection is just wrong. At 20 minutes, projection may be a little bit low, but it's fine. So that's just one example that of a spot where you can change projections. For all intents and purposes, though, the Nuggets are pretty much who they were last year. Just no Bruce Brown, and so whoever is coming off the bench first is likely to get decent usage, decent ownership, and I do expect that to be Christian Braun. However, it could be Reggie Jackson. So I think that's an interesting spot to target at low ownership. Next, let's get into the Warriors a little bit. There's a lot more to talk about here. So Jordan Poole is gone. Chris Paul is there. I think that makes some interesting situations. So when it's no Curry and we have Clay and Chris Paul on the court together, I think it's huge for Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson won't have to create his own shot. He can, catch and shoot a little bit more, which he is definitely extremely good at. So I think it's big time for Klay Thompson. Now, we have the injury situation with Draymond Green out. Looney typically gets a little bit more minutes and is a little bit better on the glass with Draymond out. Now, it is first week. There's also a lot to be said about Kuminga. People are saying that, he's kind of transformed himself in the offseason and he's bigger and better than he has been. And so we do have some interesting rotational pieces right here. So on the depth chart, Looney is the starting center. Saric is the backup. And Kuminga is the backup at power forward. So we don't know if Kuminga is going to start or if they're going to have Chris Paul start and put Wiggins at power forward and Thompson at small forward. So I think there's a lot of different interesting situations for the Warriors tonight. And I think the Kuminga, Looney, and Saric situation is a very interesting one that we can attack. So the Warriors will need some size. They have Nurkic on the Suns. Kevin Durant, while skinny, is a pretty big guy. The Suns have some size. And if the Warriors go Chris Paul at starting at point guard, then the Warriors are pretty small, with Wiggins being at power forward and Looney at center. So I think there's some interesting angles we can attack with the Warriors tonight. And Kuminga, Looney, and Saric figuring their minutes out is very important to tonight. We pretty much know that Wiggins, Paul, Curry are all going to play, 30 to 34 minutes or so. Thompson included in that. The other guys, we aren't too sure. There is a chance that Looney plays 30 minutes. Looney, without Draymond, is able to really get some rebounds and get a double-double. So he's interesting. Kuminga starting while his usage rate goes down because he's with Curry, Thompson, and everybody there. He's going to play more minutes, so it makes him at least interesting. And then I think Saric, at almost minimum, has the ability to score fantasy points quickly. And if he gets 20, 22 minutes because Looney is only playing, say, 28, 26 minutes, I think it makes Saric very interesting. So there's a lot of places we can attack on the Warriors. Lakers, pretty similar Lakers team to what we have expected in the past, or as we saw at the end of last year. I think it's a very tough matchup for D'Angelo Russell. I think Hachimura is probably priced a little bit too high on FanDuel. But the team as a whole is interesting. I do not think that AD and LeBron are getting enough ownership on this slate. I will probably be over the field on both of them. Now, I won't have a ton of them together, but I will have some, and I will be trying to get over the field there. I don't mind Austin Reeves, don't love him. I think Taurean Prince is a way we can get off some higher ownership there. I don't love his outlook. He does look like he's going to start. His usage is just going to be very, very low in this starting lineup. So I'm not a big fan of that. I would rather pay up and get Hachimura probably coming off the bench and more usage, even though he's playing less minutes and more expensive than him there. And lastly, Phoenix is where we have some real interesting kind of situations. Bradley Beal, unlikely to play. Okogie is likely to start, and I think in a pretty good situation, and this is one spot that I probably do Eat some chalk there. I think I do get over the field on him. And this 40% owned, I think is probably more likely 50, 60%. And I'm still probably going to get over the field on there. Booker, I think, is in a very good situation. Now, right now, we have Goodwin starting at point guard and Booker at shooting guard. However, there is a real situation that we have Booker at point guard, and then at shooting guard, it could be, a slew of guys. It could be Grayson Allen, could be Eric Gordon, could be Goodwin. I doubt it's Goodwin. Likely Gordon or Grayson Allen at shooting guard if Booker is starting at point guard. So I think there's a lot of different ways we can go here. I definitely like Eric Gordon. I think he's very interesting. But Goodwin, a near minimum price, being either a backup to Booker or a starting point guard, is extremely interesting. And right now the field's just not going there. Now, that is one spot that I am looking to attack, or attack with Grayson Allen if he gets into that starting lineup, or just gets a little bit more minutes than would expect. I do like Gordon. Think he is a little high owned in this situation because we don't know the rotation or what's going to happen. All in all, I think this Suns Warriors team has a lot of angles to attack. Now let's look at some ownership on FanDuel and just kind of talk through that a little bit. On FanDuel, same thing. Jordan Goodwin, low owned. Reggie Jackson, low owned. Those are probably the two best bets to get different point guard. Now, I think you're going to have some of this chalk. I think Curry's in a fine spot. Chris Paul's in a fine spot. Those would be probably my two favorite there. At shooting guard, I'm probably taking some chalk with Okogie. I do like Klay Thompson. 40% for KCP, I think, is way too much, and I won't be there very much. Eric Gordon at almost 40%. It's a similar situation. I think that the projections throughout the industry, there's just too much volatility and we don't really know what's going to happen there. I actually would rather Gordon if he's coming off the bench and playing less minutes, because that usage will go up. In a lineup with Booker and KD, his usage is not going to be very good, and we're going to see similar output that he had last year when, he was playing 30 minutes and putting up 20 points, fantasy points a game. Once guys got hurt and he started starting a little bit more, his usage went up and he became a little viable. And that's the situation here. I think he is a little bit better coming off the bench than he is starting. Grayson Allen, 31%. I think he's a little high owned, similar spot. We saw him last year in a high usage lineup. Rarely was really able to put it together unless, a bunch of guys were out. Now, 28 minutes, putting up 24 fantasy points is definitely viable. I would just say not likely. Booker is somebody I am probably looking to get over the field on. Christian Braun, I do think is interesting. I think there are paths to him playing more minutes, which is interesting. Gabe Vincent could play some minutes too. Another one that's kind of interesting. I just think he's too high priced. Small forward, Kuminga we talked about. Not sure what to make of how many minutes he's going to play. And if he's in that starting lineup, usage is going to be a lot lower than if he's coming off the bench. Where I kind of want to attack small forward, if it's not with Okogie, it is with LeBron. I think Porter's very interesting. Reeves is interesting. And I love KD at only 19% owned with likely no Bradley Beal. There's a big time ceiling there. So that is very intriguing to me. And then at power forward, I think Gordon is just going way over owned. The thing with Gordon is in a matchup versus the Lakers, he is gonna have to focus a little bit more on defense which takes him away from getting those offensive stats. While I really like Gordon as a player, I do not think this is the matchup for him. So I don't love it at his price, and I would rather go to Porter at lower ownership. Both will play similar minutes, but I do think Gordon is in a better situation. Look, Wiggins is going to play a lot of minutes, so I get why he's there. He is okay priced. I just think he's going a little lower over-owned. I like LeBron, like Porter, don't like Prince. I think Saric is a very interesting spot to attack, as well as AD. Obviously, I already said Durant. Eubanks is going to be the backup. What we have seen in the past is he can put up numbers in bunches. If Nurkic, for whatever reason, gets into some foul trouble, maybe Eubanks has some viability, but that is the only way. I'm getting over the field on Jokic. He is just the best fantasy player on this slate, and when you only have a 2-game slate, raw points means a lot, and he is likely the highest scorer. Looney, I think, is interesting, but there is a lot of volatility in his price. Everybody knows that he does play very well without Draymond. He attacks the boards a little bit more, and we don't know how many minutes he's going to get. We know they like Kuminga. They brought in Saric. Very well could be that Looney is in that 24, 26 minutes. Saric is in that 20 to 24 minutes. And if that's the case, I'll take Saric at 20 to 24 minutes and much lower priced. And hope he's able to do it with less stars on the court with him. And I obviously love AD. This is another spot I will likely try to get over the field. I think all in all, the slate is very interesting. And we talked about some of the depth chart stuff, and I just want to kind of go over that with you here. So KCP and Chris Braun are likely to be interchangeable a little bit. This is a situation where I probably wouldn't play KCP if I'm playing Braun. I just don't think they both succeed together. I think that if Braun gets hot, it means KCP's playing less minutes, and vice versa there. And then Golden State Warriors situation. So this is where we're not too sure what's going to happen with the starting lineup. So, because Draymond is out, they could have Kuminga slide up into the power forward and just start like that with Chris Paul coming off the bench, or Chris Paul at point guard, Curry at shooting guard, Klay Thompson at small forward, and Wiggins at power forward. All situations, Looney is going to be starting at center. Lakers are pretty straightforward. Vanderbilt's out. Prince is likely to start at the small forward spot with that. Maybe getting a few extra minutes, but probably not a ton. And even so, I just don't love him. He's not a great fantasy points per minute guy. So, especially with a ton of usage all around him. And then get to Phoenix Suns. This is another one where we got a lot to talk about here. So, Underdog has Devin Booker as the starting point guard with Eric Gordon coming off the bench. Now, Bradley Beal is going to be out. So, we either have Grayson Allen starting, or Eric Gordon starting, or Devin Booker at shooting guard and Eric Gordon or Jordan Goodwin at point guard. So a lot of different ways you can go with it. I would expect that it is likely Eric Gordon or Grayson Allen at shooting guard, leaving the backup point guard to Goodwin, which is interesting there. So I think this is another situation you need to think through and figure out what they're going to do. Remember that the Warriors are a little small, so they don't really need to be worried about size. Booker easily could play the 2 and these guys play the 1. But I think it is a situation that we need to talk through and let it fly. So, all in all, I think it's a very, very interesting slate. A lot of different ways to get different. And like I said, don't worry about the projection quite as much today. Try and figure out what you think the rotations are going to be and attack accordingly. And then also, we usually don't love stacking in NBA, but we have to in this game. So I would say in that situation, just be wary of the players you're putting in. If you're putting in one shooter on a team, there's likely not enough room for 2 shooters on that same team to really get going unless they are, say, a Booker and Durant type thing. And then also, if you have a big rebounder, big center, but then your power forward for that team gets his fantasy points off rebounds, you probably don't want both of them in the same lineup. So just understand the correlations and how the team dynamics work together when making your lineup. And again, you got to get a little different. Don't be one of those guys where you're duping 2,000 different ways, because if you do win, you're still not going to win that much, and that lineup has a very, very low probability of winning. After all, we don't know what's going to happen. Game 1, rotations are weird, things are weird. I hope you guys have a great time tonight. Good luck. Let's get after it, and I'll be back tomorrow. Bye.